When someone pulls away, when they stop texting, when the relationship slips into silence, the first instinct is panic. You feel the ground shift beneath you. You want to act. You want to do something, block them, call them, confront them, post something they'll see. But that impulse is not strength, it's fear in disguise. It's your attempt to regain control over a situation that feels like it's unraveling, and it will keep unraveling unless you choose a different path. You don't regain your power by controlling them, you regain it by controlling yourself. And that's far harder and far more transformative. The question is not, how do I make him respond? The question is, who am I becoming in response to this? The moment someone exits your life or starts acting distant, you are handed a psychological fork in the road. One road leads to obsession, reactivity, and emotional chaos. The other leads to discipline, clarity, and growth. That second path is hard. It demands you step outside of your wounded ego and into your highest self. It demands that you become someone who is no longer emotionally dependent on another person's validation. And that starts with mastering your internal environment. Start with the basics. Make your bed. Clean your space. These aren't small things, they're symbolic. They're the daily rituals of someone who is taking their life seriously again. When you restore order in your external world, it begins to influence your internal world. Chaos out there breeds chaos in here, but the reverse is also true. Get back to your structure. Wake up early. Exercise, journal, eat clean, speak truthfully. Say no to distractions. Set small goals and meet them, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because it is your duty to rebuild yourself. Why does this matter? Because when you're in emotional turmoil, it's easy to make someone else your project. You think, if I can just make him talk to me again, everything will be okay. But no, even if he does talk to you again, you won't be okay. Because the core problem isn't his absence. The core problem is that you lost your center when he left. That's what hurts. So don't try to fix him. Fix your alignment, fix your self-image, fix your habits. That's what self-mastery is. It's a daily commitment to choose strength over weakness, to stop negotiating with your excuses, to stop outsourcing your identity to someone else's attention. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. You're allowed to feel. You should feel. Journal the pain. Speak it aloud. Cry if you must. But don't let it turn you into someone you don't recognize. Don't let it drag you down into petty revenge or desperate pleading. That's not who you are. Instead, ask, what would the highest version of me do right now? That version of you doesn't need to block or beg. That version of you is too busy becoming unshakable, too focused on building a life so fulfilling that anyone who left will have to watch from the sidelines as you rise. Do you want power? Real, lasting power? Then understand this, the most powerful people in the world are not those who can force others to change. They are those who can change themselves, consistently, intentionally, without permission. They show up differently. They speak with weight. They don't chase, they attract. Because they have something that can't be faked, self-respect. You can have that, but not if your energy is wrapped up in what someone else is doing or not doing. Shift the focus. Make yourself your mission. Read the books. Go to the gym. Launch the project. Take the trip. Show up for yourself so hard that you stop noticing who didn't show up for you. That's the paradox. The more you chase someone, the further they run. But the moment you chase your own evolution, everything and everyone starts to shift. So don't waste your time trying to manage their silence. Master your response, master your energy, master your habits, master yourself. And watch what happens. Pain isn't a punishment, it's a message. But too often, when pain hits us, especially emotional pain caused by rejection, distance, or abandonment, we go straight into panic mode. We scramble for an escape. We want to send that last message, make that final call, block them to force a reaction, or post something cryptic just to be seen. These are desperate reactions to an internal wound. They don't heal anything. They just buy you a moment of false control. A fleeting sense of power that collapses the moment the screen goes dark again. Here's the truth. If you want real strength, you have to sit with the pain and not act on it. That sounds simple. But it might be the hardest thing you ever do. See, we live in a world that gives us endless ways to avoid discomfort. You can text, scroll, block, stalk, post, vent, distract. But very few people learn how to simply feel the pain. Not suppress it, not numb it, not dramatize it. Just feel it. Because buried inside that pain is the wisdom you need to grow. It's trying to teach you something. The problem is, when you react impulsively, you interrupt that process. You run away from the very thing that's meant to shape you. So here's the challenge. Stop running. Sit still. Sit in your room. Sit in your car. Sit in the silence. Close your eyes. Feel the ache in your chest. Let it burn. Let the memories come. Let the questions rise. Why wasn't I enough? Why did he stop trying? What did I do wrong? But, and this is critical, don't try to answer those questions in the moment of emotional chaos. Don't spiral into self-attack or blame. You're not in the state of mind to make sense of it yet. That comes later. First, your job is just to hold space for the storm without letting it dictate your behavior. You don't need to send a message. You don't need to block anyone. You don't need to update your story. You just need to breathe, sit, process, be with yourself. That's emotional maturity. That's power. Understand this. Desperation is not love. It's fear. It's the fear that you are unworthy and that if you don't get them back, it proves something terrible about you. But that's a lie your pain is telling you. And the only way to see through that lie is to stop letting it control your actions. So write about it. Journal everything. Speak to yourself out loud if you have to. Say, "Sis hurts. I feel abandoned. I feel confused. I miss them." Let the emotions be named, not suppressed. When you do this, you take them out of the shadows. And once you can name something, you can start to manage it. Eventually, and this is where the shift happens, you'll feel the pain lose some of its power. It won't vanish overnight. But by not reacting impulsively, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than the chaos, that you can hold pain without becoming pain, that you can feel the storm without letting it wreck your life. And when you emerge from that, you are no longer the same person. You're not the broken, desperate version of yourself anymore. You're someone who knows how to feel deeply without falling apart. That's the kind of strength that can't be faked. And it's incredibly attractive, not just to others, but to you. You'll trust yourself more. You'll respect yourself more. And here's the kicker. The world will begin to respond to that shift. People may come back. Opportunities may open. But by then, you'll be so grounded that you won't need them the same way. That's the power of restraint. That's the power of sitting with the pain and not letting it drive your decisions. That's emotional discipline. And emotional discipline is one of the highest forms of self-respect. So the next time you feel that urge to text, to post, to chase, to block, pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this to heal or to avoid healing? Then choose silence. Choose stillness. Choose to sit with the fire, knowing it's not there to destroy you. It's there to refine you. And when you emerge on the other side, you won't be begging for anyone's attention. You'll be too busy radiating the strength of someone who survived themselves. When a relationship starts to fade or someone pulls away, there's a natural reaction that kicks in. Prove your worth. You feel the urge to remind them of what they're missing, to text, to explain, to justify why they should return. You might say things like, "Don't you see how much I care? Don't you realize what we had?" You might demand answers, attention, or closure, not because you're needy, but because you're hurting. But here's the hard truth. Value isn't declared. It's demonstrated. It's embodied, not begged for. People don't respond to what you say. They respond to what you are, what you consistently show in your behavior, your boundaries, your energy. If you want to be respected, admired, or even missed, you don't get there by chasing someone who's no longer looking. You get there by becoming someone who radiates value without needing to announce it. Let's get clear. Value isn't about being perfect, attractive, or impressive on paper. It's not about your job, your looks, your achievements. Those things help, but they're not the core. True value is rooted in something deeper: integrity, self-respect, consistency, presence, and alignment with your purpose. When you embody those traits, people feel your value even if they can't explain it. They notice the way you carry yourself, the way you handle disappointment, the way you stay composed when most would crumble. That's power, and it speaks louder than anything you could say in a desperate message. If someone walked away from you or started treating you like an option, the answer isn't to plead for them to see your worth. The answer is to become so deeply aligned with your own worth that their absence doesn't shake you. It clarifies you. Ask yourself, am I showing up as a high-value individual, or am I trying to convince someone that I am, while simultaneously betraying my own standards just to keep them around? That's a brutal question. But it's the beginning of transformation. When you embody value, you don't tolerate breadcrumbs. You don't chase people who confuse you. You don't stay silent when your needs aren't being met. You don't settle for half-hearted effort. And you definitely don't make someone your emotional home when they've shown they don't want to build with you. Embodying value also means investing in yourself. Not out of revenge, not to make them jealous, but because you are worthy of becoming the best version of yourself regardless of who stayed or left. Go back to your vision, your goals, your health, your purpose. Pour energy into your evolution, not into repairing what they broke. Because here's the paradox. The more you demand attention or recognition, the less powerful you seem. But the more you embody value, quietly, consistently, the more magnetic you become. People notice when you stop trying to prove something, when you become secure enough to let go and wise enough to walk away. That's when the dynamic shifts. That's when they start to wonder, wait, did I lose something I didn't fully see? But by then, the truth is, you won't even be focused on their realization. You'll be too deep in your own, because that's the real win, not that they come back, but that you become someone who doesn't need them to. Look around, the most powerful, grounded people aren't out there begging to be chosen. They choose themselves every single day. And that energy, that's what people come back to, not the pleading, not the proving, not the pain, but the peace, the deep, undeniable sense that you've done the work and that you're walking in your worth now. So instead of sending that message, sending that screenshot to friends, refreshing that page, go do something that proves your value to yourself. Something real, something hard, something uncomfortable. Hit the gym, start the business, heal the wound, show up on time. Speak the truth, keep your word. These aren't just habits, they're identity-forming decisions. Every time you show up with self-respect, you're not just reacting to life, you're leading it. And here's the ultimate shift. Once you become the kind of person who no longer needs to be validated externally, the right people will start gravitating toward you. And the ones who couldn't see your value before, they'll either elevate themselves to meet you or fade out completely. Either way, you win. Because you didn't just talk about being valuable. You became it. When someone disrespects you, pulls away, or simply stops showing up for you, there's a natural urge to react, to explain, to defend, to remind them of your worth. You want to make them see what they're losing. You want them to feel the consequences of their choices. But here's the truth most people miss. The most powerful consequence is not anger. It's not revenge. It's silence. Not silence as a manipulation tactic. Not silence as a passive-aggressive weapon, but silence as a declaration of self-respect. See, when someone treats you like an afterthought, you don't need to announce your departure. You don't need to slam the door behind you. You simply walk out quietly and rebuild, not to prove anything to them, but to honor everything about you. Because silence, when it comes from strength, says everything you could never put into words. It says, I am no longer accessible to chaos. It says, you don't get to choose when I matter. It says, you've already shown me who you are, now I'm showing you who I've become. There's a reason people often come back after silence. And it's not because they missed your messages, it's because they felt the shift, the absence of your energy, the weight of your withdrawal, the subtle but undeniable realization that you are no longer emotionally tethered to them, that you've stepped into a space they can no longer reach with inconsistency, breadcrumbs, or half-effort. But here's the part most people get wrong. You don't go silent so they'll come back. You go silent because you've outgrown the conversation. You've made peace with what happened, even if you never got an apology. You've stopped rehearsing your pain and started rehearsing your power. That's where evolution begins. When you stop trying to change them and start transforming yourself, everything changes. You move from victim to architect, from being at the mercy of someone's attention to being the master of your own direction. Let the proof of your worth be in your results, in the glow that returns to your skin when you're not stressing over their replies, in the clarity that comes when you no longer lose sleep over unread messages, in the confidence that shows up when you start showing up for yourself, consistently, fully, without apology. You don't need to post about it. You don't need to send one last message. You don't need to explain how they lost the best thing that ever happened to them. You just become it. Let your discipline speak. Let your focus speak. Let your progress speak. Because nothing is more powerful than someone who no longer needs to be understood, only witnessed. And as you evolve, you'll find that the people who once made you question your worth start to look smaller in the rear view. Not because they changed, but because you did. You raised your standards. You stopped chasing closure. You stopped inviting people back into your life just because you had history. You realize that the past is not a good enough reason to disrupt your future. This is what silence and evolution do. They don't just change your story, they change your role in the story. You stop being the one who waits and start becoming the one who builds, the one who creates, the one who walks away, not because they're angry, but because they're no longer available to what doesn't align. So the next time you feel the urge to force a reaction, pause. Let the consequence be your absence. Let the lesson be your growth. Let the proof be your life, the one you're building in full color, while they're still stuck in black and white cycles. You don't need closure. You don't need validation. You don't need them to say I was wrong. You just need to rise so fully that those words become irrelevant. That's the highest form of response. No response at all. Not because you're bitter, but because you're better. Better than who you were. Better than the drama. Better than the noise. And most of all, better off